My name is Joanne Fletcher. I am 75 years old, a retired financial advisor, and a mother who once believed she had done everything right. I thought I knew my son inside and out. I raised him alone after my husband Mark died in a car accident when our boy Ryan was just 11. Through every scraped knee, school recital, and heartbreak, I was there. Now sitting in my quiet apartment with a warm cup of chamomile tea and a stack of photo albums, I realized how wrong I was. The faces staring back at me from those old pictures tell a story. I believed in a mother and son who stood by each other, who respected and loved without conditions. But the reality is much more complicated, especially after what happened with the house. The house I bought for him, the house that became the setting of the most painful moment of my life. I had built my entire future around supporting my family. I was careful with money, worked long hours, and made sacrifices that only a parent can understand. I never asked for anything in return, not praise, not repayment. All I wanted was to give my son a better life, and for a while I believed I had. But nothing prepares you for the moment when someone you love looks at you as if you were a burden. Not after everything you've given. Not after you've poured every ounce of yourself into making their life easier. This is the story of how I gave my son the keys to a dream and how he turned that dream into a nightmare. It's about betrayal, awakening, and the strength it takes to finally put yourself first. Even when your heart still wants to forgive. When Mark died, everything changed. One moment, I was a wife with a steady life. The next, I was a widow with an 11-year-old son and a mortgage to pay. The grief was heavy, but Ryan gave me purpose. I got my degree in finance by studying at night and working days at the local branch of First National Bank. It wasn't glamorous, but it was stable, and I was good at it. I learned how to stretch a dollar, how to build long-term wealth, and how to live without extravagance. Ryan was always sharp, but he lacked softness. He was ambitious, which I admired, but also distant in a way I couldn't quite fix. And maybe that was my fault. Working all those hours, always pushing him to succeed, trying to make up for the fact that his father was gone. In high school, Ryan was the kind of kid teachers remember. Driven, articulate, never to linger after class. He went on to college, got a business degree, and landed a job in sales. That's where he met Brittany. She was beautiful in that polished, curated way. Hair always perfect, makeup immaculate, voice syrupy, sweet but cold underneath. She worked in interior design and sold luxury furniture to people who had no business buying it. A natural persuader, the kind of woman who could make you feel inadequate just by walking into the room. I never told Ryan how I felt about her. It wasn't my place. But from the start, she struck me as someone who saw people in terms of usefulness. When they got married, I helped them buy their first home, a modest place in a decent neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but safe and warm. Then Lily was born, my only granddaughter. Bright-eyed, curious, full of questions and laughter, she brought joy back into my life. I babysat when they asked, kept my distance when they didn't. Lily and I had our own quiet bond, Sunday muffin baking, stargazing from my little apartment balcony, whispered secrets in the grocery aisle. I thought I had found my place, not in the center of their lives, but close enough to matter. Until one day, I decided to do something big, something life-changing for them. And that's when everything began to unravel. So, I started with a quiet afternoon and a cup of tea by the window. I was going through my financial planner, reviewing the modest but solid portfolio I had built over the years. My pension from the bank, Social Security, low-risk investments, and a small inheritance from my sister-in-law, all of it carefully maintained. At 75, I wasn't looking to travel the world or buy luxury goods. My knees ached too much for long flights, and every piece of furniture in my apartment held meaning. So I asked myself, what was I saving for? That's when the idea came. A new home for Ryan, Brittany, and Lily. Their current house was cramped. The neighborhood had gone downhill in recent years. Lily was growing, starting to spend more time alone. She needed her own space. I wanted her to feel safe. I wanted her to remember her childhood fondly. I didn't tell anyone, not even my best friend Elaine, who usually knew everything before I did. This decision felt deeply personal, a quiet, private act of love. I began researching neighborhoods. Westfield Heights stood out. Family-friendly, near good schools, quiet streets, wide lawns. I made an appointment with a real estate agent named Kendra Rhodes, someone Elaine had recommended. Kendra was smart, no nonsense, and kind. "You're buying a house for your son?" she asked, surprised. "That's incredibly generous." I shrugged. "They need it more than I do." We toured several homes over the next few weekends. Some were too new, built fast and cheap. Others were charming, but needed work. Finally, we found one on Ashgrove Lane, a beautiful colonial-style house with tall windows, a shaded backyard, and enough space for everyone to breathe. 4 bedrooms, a sunlit office, a cozy family room, and a kitchen that Brittany could decorate to her heart's content. It was at the top of my budget, but it felt right. The next day, I invited Ryan to lunch at a quiet bistro we both liked. I didn't drag it out. "I want to buy you a house," I said, handing him the brochure. He stared at it like I had just offered him the moon. "Mom, this is too much, but it's what I want," I said, simply. "You're my son. Lily deserves a better childhood than a broken neighborhood can offer." He didn't say yes right away, but his eyes, they sparkled. That was answer enough. At first, Ryan was hesitant. He called it too much, said they couldn't possibly accept. But within days, the tone shifted. Brittany called me, her voice bright like polished glass. "Joanne, thank you again for even thinking of doing this. We're so excited. Ryan told me about Ashgrove Lane. It's lovely. But would you mind if we looked at a few more homes just to compare?" Compare. That word stayed with me. I agreed, though something in my gut tightened. Kendra, ever the professional, showed us more listings. With each one, their taste grew bolder. Larger foyers, double kitchen islands, wine cellars, for entertaining, Brittany explained, even though they didn't entertain. Not really. One afternoon, after a showing in Willowbrook Estates, a gated community far beyond my budget, Brittany leaned across the table with that syrupy smile. "Didn't you say you sold stock last year? Ryan mentioned it. There's more room in the budget. We could really make this our forever home." I blinked. I had in fact sold some shares, but I never told Ryan that. "How did he know that?" I asked. "Oh, he said you talked about it over lunch." No, I hadn't. I went home and sat with my spreadsheets for hours. Could I stretch more? Could I make it work without risking my security? The answer was yes, barely. Then we found a house on Hawthorne Ridge. It was 15% over my original budget, but stunning. Grand entryway, chef's kitchen, custom closets. Lily loved the upstairs room with a window nook. Brittany gushed about the layout. Ryan examined the garage like a man already picturing his tools neatly organized. Still, I hesitated. "I'll do it," I said, finally. "But only if we follow through on full coverage insurance. This kind of property needs protecting." Ryan frowned. "Come on, Mom. That's $5,000 a year." The inspection was clean. "I still recommend it," I said. "Peace of mind matters." He looked to Brittany, who offered a tight-lipped smile. "Maybe we can revisit it later." The day we signed the papers, he kissed my cheek and said, "You're the best." Mom, but somewhere between that thank you and the party they threw to celebrate the new house, something shifted. The gratitude began to fade. The requests became expectations. And I started to wonder if the gift I gave had quietly become their entitlement. The housewarming party was Brittany's idea. "It's a new chapter," she said. "We should celebrate it, right?" They sent out printed invitations, hired a florist, and ordered catering from one of the best restaurants in town. 50 guests were invited, colleagues, neighbors, and even a few people I vaguely remembered from Ryan's childhood. I arrived early to help with the final touches. Brittany was already in her element, arranging flowers, directing servers, adjusting throw pillows, as if the house were a showroom. Ryan stood near the back patio with a drink in hand, chatting with his boss. I barely recognized the space. New furniture, sleek and expensive, fresh paint and trendy tones. Lily ran to greet me and dragged me upstairs to show off her new room. The telescope I'd bought her sat perfectly by the wide bay window. "Grandma, you can see the stars so clearly here," she whispered. I hugged her tightly. As the guests arrived, Ryan played the perfect host. Brittany floated through the rooms, accepting compliments on her eye for design. Every time I was introduced, it was the same. "This is my mom. She bought us the house." People gushed over my generosity, and I smiled, even as something inside me shrank. By 7, the party was in full swing. Laughter spilled from every corner. I found a quiet seat in the corner of the living room, watching as the house buzzed around me. No one really noticed me anymore. Not the way they had earlier. I was the giver. My part was done. Around 8, I remembered the blueberry pie ID brought and realized ID left the baking dish in the kitchen. I slipped away quietly, not wanting to interrupt. That's when I heard my name. She nearly cried during the toast. Brittany's voice, slightly slurred, rang out. Honestly, it was like she thought she was giving us a kidney. Laughter. Ryan's voice followed, casual. Well, she gave us most of her savings. What else is she going to do with it at her age? Another guest chimed in, chuckling. Weren't you worried she'd want to move in with you? Brittany replied, mockingly sweet. Joanne, no, she's too proud for that, and we made it clear early. We need our own space. I stood frozen just feet from the kitchen door. Brittany continued. Last thing we need is an old woman watching our every move in our own house. Something inside me cracked. My legs felt heavy, my breath shallow. I pushed open the door and silence fell like a curtain. I forgot my dish, I said calmly, nodding toward the counter. No one spoke. Brittany turned pale. Ryan looked like a child caught stealing. As I picked up the ceramic pan, Ryan stepped forward. Mom, don't, I said quietly. I heard everything. Brittany tried to smile. It was just a joke. No, I replied. It wasn't. I left through the front door without looking back. No one stopped me, not even my son. Outside, the night was cool. I held the dish tightly in my hands like a shield. And for the first time in my life, I truly felt alone. Not because I had no one, but because the people I loved most had made me feel like I didn't belong. And that was worse than being alone. That night stretched on like a winter with no end. I didn't turn on the television. I didn't touch the pie. I sat in the dark with the ceramic dish still in my lap, listening to the silence of my apartment press in from every corner. I wasn't angry, not yet. I was something worse, hollow. I kept thinking of Ryan as a boy. The way he used to curl up beside me on the couch when he had nightmares. The way he clutched my hand at his father's funeral, not letting go for hours. Was that version of him gone, or had I just imagined it? The phone rang around 10 the next morning. It was Lily. Grandma. Her voice was quiet, cautious. Are you okay? Something happened at the party. Mom and Dad won't tell me, but I know something's wrong. I closed my eyes, holding back the tears. I'm okay, sweetheart. I just needed to go home early. I love you, she said. I'll always love you. It cracked something open in me. The tears came, this time in quiet streams instead of a flood. I love you too, Lily, so much. After we hung up, I took a shower, put on fresh clothes, and opened the windows to let the light in. Then I walked to the park and sat on our usual bench by the duck pond. I didn't cry anymore. I just sat there breathing. That's where I met Walter. He was leaning on a cane, wearing a sun hat too big for his head. Do you mind if I sit? He asked. I nodded. Go ahead. He lowered himself onto the bench and looked straight ahead. Hard day. I smiled faintly. The hardest. Well, he said, then the only direction left is forward. I didn't know it yet, but he was right. A week passed. I heard nothing from Ryan. No apology, no visit, just silence. Part of me hoped he would come around. Another part, perhaps the wiser part, knew better. Then Early one morning, my phone rang. I picked it up without checking the screen. Mom? Ryan's voice was rushed, breathless. I need your help. I paused. What happened? It's the house, he said. There's a problem. A big one. I sat down slowly. What kind of problem? Structural damage, cracks in the foundation. A neighbor noticed something off. And when inspectors came this morning, they said part of the house is at risk of collapse. I blinked, but the inspection before the sale missed it. Apparently he cut in. Or maybe it's gotten worse. I don't know. But now they're saying we'll have to move out if it isn't repaired. It could cost hundreds of thousands, Mom. I closed my eyes. I already knew the answer to the next question, but I asked anyway. What about the insurance? He hesitated. Basic doesn't cover structural damage. If we had full coverage, like you said, maybe. But we don't. And now we're stuck. I stayed quiet. Please, he said, we don't have the money. We can't sell it. We can't fix it. You're the only one who can help us. I thought of Brittany's voice in that kitchen. We don't need a burden like her anymore. I thought of Lily's face when she showed me her telescope. And then I thought of every time I'd bend over backwards to make Ryan's life easier, only to be left standing alone. I can't help you, Ryan, I said quietly. What? He choked. What do you mean you can't? Spent nearly all my savings on that house. What's left is what I need to live on. He was silent for a beat. Then his voice changed, pleading, desperate. Mom, we'll be on the street. No, I said calmly. You still have your old house, but we can't go back there. Not after living here. That's your pride talking, I replied. I already gave you a gift most parents never could, and all I got in return was silence, mockery, and exclusion. So this is punishment, he snapped. No, I said. This is a boundary. He didn't respond. I hung up the phone and let the silence return. Only this time it didn't feel quite so lonely. It felt like peace. The next day, Brittany showed up at my apartment. She didn't call first. She just knocked, sharp, urgent, like someone used to being let in. When I opened the door, she was standing there in her designer coat, eyes slightly red, but makeup still perfect. Can I come in? She asked. I stepped aside. Sure. She walked into the living room like she did remember calling me a burden in that very space just weeks ago. Her eyes scanned the room, pausing at the family photo on the shelf. We need to talk about the house. I nodded. I assumed there's more damage than we thought, she said. The foundation's shifting, and if it rains again this week, the inspector said it could become unsafe to live in. I'm sorry to hear that, I said simply. We need help, Joanne. She sat down, hands clasped tightly. Look, I said some awful things. I was stressed. I was wrong. I'm ashamed. Because you need my help now, I asked. She looked up, startled. No, because I am. I didn't respond. I just watched her. We've been talking about it, she continued. Ryan and me were willing to have you move in with us into the old house. You can sell this place. Use the money for the repairs. I tilted my head slightly. Okay, a week ago, I was an intrusion. Now I'm a solution. It's not like that. It's exactly like that, Brittany. My voice stayed calm. And I'm not doing it. I gave everything I could already. She stood quickly, her tone shifting. You're going to regret this. Lily is going to suffer because of your pride. I rose too, but slower. No, she'll be okay. She knows who loves her. She stared at me, speechless. Then she left, letting the door close a little too hard behind her. This time, I didn't flinch. 3 days later, Ryan called. His voice was quieter this time. No urgency, no demands. Mom, he said, I just wanted to talk. No asking, no pressure. I didn't respond right away, and he waited. We're moving back into the old house, he continued. We don't have a choice. The damage is worse than they thought, and the bank's threatening foreclosure. We found a buyer-some development firm. But they're only offering a fraction of what the house was worth. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it. That must be hard. It is, he replied. But that's not why I called. He paused like he was sorting through his words. I need to apologize, Mom. Not because I need something. Not because Brittany told me to. Just because I've been thinking a lot. I stayed silent. I was raised by someone who gave up everything for me, he said, and I repaid that with entitlement and disrespect. I let Brittany talk to you that way. I laughed behind your back. And worst of all, I stayed silent when you needed me to speak up. There was a tightness in my chest I hadn't felt in years. We're going to counseling, he said. Brittany and me trying to fix what we can. But I needed to say this now. Even if nothing changes between us, I finally found my voice. I appreciate that, Ryan. I do. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, he added. I just want to be a better man for Lily, for myself, and maybe someday for you, too. I breathed in deeply. That's a start. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something I hadn't felt toward my son in years. Hope. Summer came quietly, warm and full of light. Walter, kind, patient Walter, invited me to spend the season with him at his nephew's beach house on the Florida coast. Just a few months, he said. A change of scenery, fresh air, no pressure. He even brought flowers when he asked. A small bouquet of wild lilies wrapped in brown paper. Oh, I said yes. For the first time in my life, I was doing something for me. No guilt, no compromise, just joy. Lily was thrilled. You deserve this, Grandma, she said. Promise you'll send me photos every day. I will, I laughed. I expect Sunday video calls. The morning of my departure, she came to the station with Walter and my dear friend Elaine. To my surprise, Ryan came too. He stood a few feet back, watching, hesitant but present. When I hugged Lily goodbye, she whispered, I'm proud of you. Elaine winked as she handed me a small care package. Ginger cookies and a paperback novel for your mornings by the ocean. And then Ryan stepped forward. Mom, he said, his voice steady. I hope you find happiness out there. You deserve it. Thank you, I replied. He opened his mouth to say something else, but stopped. Instead, he nodded. As the train began to pull away, I looked out the window. Lily was waving, Elaine smiling, and Ryan standing still, hands in his pockets, watching me leave. Beside me, Walter leaned back in his seat, ready for adventure. I smiled. I think I already started it. The past would always be part of me, but it would no longer define me. I was no longer just someone's mother or someone's sacrifice. I was Joanne Fletcher, a woman reclaiming her worth, one quiet boundary at a time. And at 75, that was only the beginning.